Hey guys, it's me. Not a lot happened today except we read the most depressing, horrible, sad, funny, sad song book type thing we ever. Actually, it wasn't a song, nothing to do with music. But it had to do with this one boy. And he doesn't have a name, so I'll call him Bob, okay? And he was the narrator of the story. This is set in times of World War I, and the book's called Something of the Iris. It's a short story, and it's such a sad story. Like, anybody in my class or any of English classes had this book read, and Bob, he wanted a little brother, and lo and behold, his mom had a little brother, or had a little boy. But this little boy was crippled, and the doctor gave him only 3 days to live. Of course, he lived past that, and he lived about 3 months later. He was still alive, so his parents were like, well, I think we should name them, So they named this little boy, this little crippled boy who they thought was going to have mental and physical issues, William Armstrong. And Bob thought the only good thing about this name, it would look great on a tombstone. Well, this little boy, William Armstrong, he lived, and when he was about 2 years old, he finally started to crawl and talk, and everybody was happy, but, he just wouldn't shut up, And so Bob had to take this little boy everywhere William Armstrong everywhere he went, in a little go-kart. And for some reason, William Armstrong's nickname became Doodle. And so Bob would take him in the cornfield, and then he'd run really fast with his little brother Doodle in a go-kart. And Doodle, his skin was sensitive, so he had to wear a huge straw hat, and it just cover his whole body, And Bob would run so fast with this go-kart, he'd make Doodle fall out. But Doodle never told. Bob was hoping that because of this, Doodle would stop wanting to go ride with him. Well, it's about his 5th birthday, and Doodle is still crawling and riding in the go-kart. His legs are too weak to walk. He's crippled. But he's all there, Oh, I forgot to say that when Doodle was still a baby, Bob tried to kill him because he didn't want a crippled brother who couldn't run and play with him. But he was about to smother him with a pillow, but he didn't kill him because he smiled at him. And Bob went crazy. He's like, Mom, he's all there, he's all there. He smiled, Anyways, 5 years old, and he couldn't walk. Bob was embarrassed that he had to carry around his 5-year-old brother who couldn't walk. So Bob, one day, he's like, I'm going to teach you how to walk. And Doodle, he was just like, well, I can't, I'm too weak. So Bob took him and stood him up, and Doodle fell forward. And he just laid there, and he's just like, don't hurt me, I don't want to do it again. And they did that for about a year. And by Doodle's 6th birthday, he got out of the go-kart, and he walked to his place at the dinner table. Everybody was flabbergasted. I mean, he wasn't supposed to be able to walk. He wasn't even supposed to live 3 days. And here, this boy, who's super sensitive to everything and gets cold after cold in the winter, who wasn't even supposed to be crawling, walked to his place at the dinner table. His mom and dad went ballistic, and his aunt was ecstatic. And, then Bob started to cry because he only made Doodle walk because he was embarrassed by him. And so he felt ashamed that he made Doodle walk out of selfishness and not for Doodle's own good. Well, the doctor was warning him, be careful, he's fragile, don't make him do too much. And of course, Bob never listened. So Bob secretly would take Doodle out and teach him the other stuff. He was trying to teach him how to row a boat, how to run, swim, climb trees, all the stuff little boys normally do. And, you know, their goal was to do it before the starting of school. They decided Doodle should go to school. So, you know, they tried, and all summer long, and everything. And it was the day before Doodle's school start. And they did not reach their goal. He could kind of paddle a boat. He could almost jog. He couldn't climb a tree. He can climb a vine, but only 1 inch off the ground. And Bob was furious. He's just like, do you want to stick out from everybody else, you know? And Doodle's like, well, what's so wrong with being different? And, you know, then it started storming. So they were a while away from home, just like a good, 20-minute, 30-minute walk or something like that. And Doodle was frightened by the storm. It was pouring, thunder, lightning, all the works. And Doodle's like, don't leave me, don't leave me. And Bob started to walk faster, and Doodle kept on his heels. So Bob was thinking, maybe I can get him to try to run. So Bob walked even faster, and Doodle walked even faster, still on his heel. Yeah, still on his heels. Then Bob took off, and Doodle was trying to catch up, going, don't leave me! Don't leave me! And Bob kept running until he couldn't hear Doodle's voice anymore. Then he stopped, and he's like, Doodle? You know, because he ran out his anger, his frustration, and now he was a little concerned because of the storm. The lightning stopped, but it was pouring very hard. It needles in his face, basically. And so he went back, and he called around, and he saw Doodle sitting under a tree, you know, kind of with his knees here, his arms here, his head like this. Yeah, that looks right. Like that. And he's like, all right, Doodle, come on, let's go. And Doodle didn't respond. And Bob was like, Doodle, come on, I'll carry you home, bud, let's go. You know? And so he lifted up Doodle's head, and he saw the most depressing thing ever. He saw blood all on his shirt, from his mouth and his nose. Apparently, when Doodle was trying to run up and catch up to Bob, his lungs started bleeding, and it filled up with blood, and he died. And we read that in English class. Everyone was crying. Even some guys were crying. Other guys were like, not gonna cry. Not gonna cry. And I'm bawling my eyes out. Miss Ginley and I pray this was a fictional story. It didn't specify, but we think it is. So, well, that's all really that happened today. We didn't do much at lunch. Sorry, guys. And that's about it. All right, bye. Take these voices away from here.